Welcome to session number 15 of OAuth with Access Manager. In this session, we are going to take the another use case when we can use the OAuth with Access Gateway. The use case is this: the Access Gateway to validate OAuth token on behalf of the resource server and inject properties to the backend web server. Um, So if you want to understand this use case in details, you can basically go to the developer documentation, and there you can go to this particular section which talks about the access gateway validates the access token on behalf of the web application. But in short, if I have to say about it, what happens that uh, the application gets the access token from the identity server, and that application access a protected resource, a protected resource which is protected by the access gateway. Okay, so when it accesses the protected resource, the client application also injects a OAuth token to the access gateway. Access gateway gets this token and sends this token to the identity server to validate the token, and once the token is validated, it takes the information related to the token and inject it to the uh, backend web server. So it uses basically two kind of policies. One is the authorization policy. So in the authorization policy, basically you can what access gateway will do, it will take the token and it will verify the token, and the verification includes, so for example, the scope of the token. So it will just verify that the token scope is matching with the scope configured in the policy. If it matches, it allows, otherwise it denies. The another kind of policy can be used is the identity injection policy, where it will take the information related to the token, the user info related to the token, and inject it to the web server. I'll just show you the high level information. So if you see this, this is the client application. It makes a request to the access gateway. Okay, and this is basically okay. So the client application here, this basically makes a request to the identity server. It gets a token, and that token it inject to the access gateway. Okay, access gateway verifies this token with the identity server, and based on that it takes a decision whether the user is allowed to access the protected resource or not. If it is allowed to access the protected resource, it can basically inject the information to the legacy web application. Okay, the information can be of different format. It can inject the username or password of the user. It can also inject, for example, the claims related to the user. So I can show you a very detailed diagram of this use case. Okay, so this is a low level details of what exactly happens here. So if you see, the application has taken already the access token from the IDP server. Then it access the protected resource to the access gateway, and when it make the request, it also inject the token to the access gateway. What access gateway does, access gateway basically do the policy configuration and all. I think these are just out of the scope what exactly it is doing. But at the end, after the policy configuration and evolution, if you can see what ESP is doing, ESP is making the token info request to the identity server. So this token info request goes to the identity server, and identity server gives the token info response. So the information related to the token. And again you can see here, once this thing happens, ESP again makes a user info request to the IDP server, and IDP provides the response. So at the end, the access gateway will have all the information, and it can basically inject the OAuth data to the web server. Inject OAuth data, where you can basically create an authentication header and pass the username password. Similarly, we use in the normal identity injection, where we can use the LDAP credential profile to push the username password. Here you can use the OAuth token username password. You can also inject the OAuth scopes, and you can inject the OAuth claims also. So now we will see that how this particular use case can be configured with the access gateway. So to do that, we will go to access gateway, and I have created a proxy service here, and it has this particular protected resource I have created for this purpose. So the main point we need to remember when we create a protected resource for such a use case, for example, let me create a new one, and if I want to create this, okay, we need to make sure that do not select any contract here, okay, because we are not going for any authentication. We have to select the OAuth token. Okay, when you select this OAuth token, basically access gateway knows that for this particular protected resource, it is looking for a access token to be coming from the client application. Okay, so this in normal protected resource, you basically go and select a contract, but for this use case you are going to select the OAuth token, because this protected resource is expecting a token from the client application. So the same thing which I have done, if you do this thing, you can basically see there is a OAuth token column here that will be checked here, that actually represent that this is a particular resource which is looking for the OAuth token coming from the client application. So we don't need this one. I'll just go and cancel. I have already created one such protected resource, Inject OAuth properties. If I click on this, you can see there is no contract selected. Token is the OAuth token, and I am accessing a protected resource which is called the OAuthProperties.php. So this is a PHP file which basically, if you access, it will dump all the information related to request. So if I am gonna inject some data on this, I can basically see by accessing this particular PHP file. This is simple, a copy of the PHP info file. So if you have a PHP enabled web server, you can basically use this. Okay, so in this particular use case, we can create two kind of policies. Okay, it is not mandatory to create both of them, but just to show the use case, we can create two kind of policies. The first one is the authorization policy. So I have created an authorization policy called check OAuth scope. What it does, if I open this and show you real quick, it has two options. One is the permit and another is the deny. So if I go to the first, it goes and what it does, it says that if OAuth scope is email, then permit. Okay, so this particular policy says that the token which client application is sending to the access gateway, if that token is created using the OAuth scope email, then only permit the request. If not, deny that request. So if a token is created using for example, a scope called profile, this user will be denied. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and cancel that. So this is one policy you required. Another policy which you required is the identity injection policy. Okay, the identity injection policy is basically what it does, that once the token is verified using the authorization policy, the identity injection policy will be triggered, and what it is going to do, it is going to send the token to the identity server and get the information related to the to that token, or basically the user information. So what I have done, I have created only a single header. You can create the multiple header based on the different values, but here I have created a single header, and the header name is username. And what I have selected, I have selected the access token user. So the username from the access token. There may be other option also. For example, if I click inject custom header, here you can go and you can select like for example OAuth claims, and here you can see different value. You can use user, you can take the password, you can go here and you can basically take the different claims related to the token. So but for simplicity I am just checking the username. Modify this one. Okay, so once again real quick, to achieve this particular use case, you need to create a protected resource. Make sure the OAuth token is selected, not the contract. You can create an authorization policy, and this authorization policy will basically take the token, send to the identity server, and check for the you can check for the scope, and based on that you can either permit or deny the user. You can also inject the OAuth properties, which will make a request to the again identity server, get the user related information, and inject into the web server. When you enable this kind of protected resource, this particular thing will be checked, which says that this is a special kind of protected resource, which does not have any authentication procedure, but it is looking for a OAuth token. Okay, so this was the configuration. To access this protected resource, I have to access the msync19.lab.novel.com, and the path is going to be OAuthProperties.php. So to explore this option, what we can do, we can go to the our client Let's OAuth, and the very last one option is the inject token to access gateway. We can click on this. Okay, and oh, sorry about that. Before that, we have to actually take the token. So let's close this one. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the password code flow to take a token. So the password code flow is simple. It's quickly, not 2 steps. So I can quickly use it. I will use the Let's OAuth client. Right. Username will be let's say nam user. Password is novel. Okay, and scope, this password is again, I think I need to make it so that it's not visible. Scope, so if you remember the token which we have configured, the authorization policy which we have configured, that was looking for the uh, scope as email. Show you quickly. So if I go this, So you can see here it is looking for the email. So I'm going to create the token using the same email and send this request. I got the access token. Let me copy this access token now. I have the access token, and now what I'm going to do, I will use this link inject token to access gateway, and I'll pass this token here. Okay, so before using this particular page, what you need to do, go and check the source of this. Okay, so what this basically do, it is looking for the access token. Once you take the access token and press the button send token to AG, it makes a AJAX call to the access gateway server. Okay, and in this AJAX call, it basically injects the token as a bearer token, and the header is the authorization header. So this page basically creates a header called authorization with the value of bearer and the token bearer and the token, and then make this request to this particular protected resource. So if you remember, this protected resource is nothing but the one for which we have configured this one, OAuthProperties.php. So you need to basically before using that, you need to go to your ag.html and modify this particular link in order for it to get executed. Okay, that you can do. You can go to the web apps. So auth ag. So here ag.html is the page where you need to put this information. Okay, once you put this information and you try to click send token to AG, is not giving any information. Okay, let's try it again. No. Okay, so what we can do, we can do a little debugging here. Use the F12 and go here and then try to do the same thing. Click on the console. If there is some error, we will see. So we can already see an error. It says that the same origin policy disallows reading the remote resource at this. Okay, so what is happening here, that you have a web page ag.html which is on this particular server, and this page is making a request to another server which is msync19.lab.novel.com. Okay, and that server is the AG server. Okay, the same thing we were doing in our previous use cases by taking access token, token info and all, but that was all the IDP server. And if you remember, we have disabled the CORS there. We actually allow the CORS from all the origins, but for access gateway, it is failing. I believe this thing is fixed in Access Gateway, but it it needs some kind of advanced options, which right now I don't remember. So what I can do, I can just do some hack to bypass this thing, uh, bypass the course. So for that, what I can do, I can run the same request using Fiddler. So if I use the Fiddler, it will basically bypass the course, but it's not correct. If you see the similar issue with your setup, go ahead and contact the support and raise a request, and the support will definitely definitely work with you and provide you the solution. But for the time being, I am going to just bypass this by running the fiddler on the server and access this. Okay, so I'm going to access my tool. Let's OAuth and use this inject token to access gateway, and I'm gonna put the token here, which is not this one. Take the token and put the token here and send token to AG. So when I send token to AG, I can basically see the uh, PHP page. So this page is basically the OAuth properties.php. So if you remember this particular, if I do view source, it is basically injecting the request here. So what you are seeing on this is basically the OAuth properties.php. Or properties.php. So I will just go and see whether the username which I have provided, it has reached there or not. So you can see here HTTP username name user. So we basically use the name user to get the access token, and now if this information is going to the access gateway, it's going to the web server. That means that the token was basically uh, the token was basically issued to the name user. One point to be mentioned, that if you see this flow, there was no authentication is triggered at the access gateway. The authentication was not triggered. It was kind of a you can say a public resource where there was authentication procedure was not selected, but the OAuth token was selected. But still the username is going to the web server. That means that we have fetched that information from the username. And also this particular request is not denied because the the token was using the scope as email. What we can do now, we will create a token with a scope profile and just see whether this particular use case is successful or not. So to do that, we can uh, go here and go to the password flow again and get another token, but this time not using email, but using name user and profile. So this is a different uh, scope, but the authorization policy is configured to use for the email, to use the email. It is for email. So now we are going to take the token using the profile. Okay, I have the token, and now I am going to use the same file and let's see what does it say. So go here and put your token and make the request. If you see that there is no response here in this case, okay, the response is not here. To verify that what is the issue here, I'll do F12, and if you see, it says the failed to load resource, the server responded with a status of 403. If I go to the network and make the same request again, you can see the response is coming as the 403. 403 stand for the forbidden. So basically what happened in this case, you have created a the client application has created a token using the profile, using the scope called profile, and sent to the access gateway. Now access gateway has a policy which basically check the whether the OAuth scope is email or not, but as the scope is profile, it has given a deny, and that's what you are seeing as a 403 forbidden. So these are the two use cases with the access gateway. um, I think we have covered the almost all the option which Let's OAuth provide. um, so one thing need to remember when you use this Let's OAuth, when you click on these links, it create a new tab. So if you will not close the tab, your browser will be full with multiple tabs, and it will confuse. So better use it, and when you don't want, just go ahead and close that. Uh, the one thing which I have not covered, which I'm planning to take in the another session, is the different kind of encryption mechanism we can use with the token. So if you see the resource server, the resource server basically uh, provides you the token, and token is basically encrypted if you are using the default resource server. But that encryption uh, has three, but that actually provide the three different kind of options. One is the do not encrypt, another is the encrypt using access manager key, and the third is the encrypt using the resource server key. So I think we in next session we can talk about it. So this is for this session. Thank you.